All right, so 3 years ago, I did a video on how to propagate apple tree rootstocks and how to dig them up and transplant them. And so I wanted to do an update in this video and kind of show what some of these apple trees look like now that I dug up 3 years ago, transplanted, whip and tongue graft, and have now become bigger trees. Come join me in the chaos. All right, so in this corner, I have an apple tree. It's a crabapple tree rootstock, and so it's a pretty mature tree, probably 20 or 30 years old. And I chopped it down to a stump, and then I bark grafted it. The reason I'm showing this tree is a prolific producer of root suckers. And root suckers are very useful because they make really strong apple tree rootstocks a distance away from the mother tree that you can actually dig up and transplant. Over here I have another one. This one's having a little bit of trouble on this side. This side looks like it's having some dieback from the shock of the graft. The graft didn't take. But I get a lot of apple trees that kind of pop up down here in the ground. If you look down here, apple trees there. There was a whole bunch more over here, but I just recently mowed them. But very useful. If you have an apple tree near you, especially a crabapple tree rootstock that grows prolifically, it's probably going to produce some really good rootstocks for use in grafting. So that's my source. So for example, onto this guy, I think this is a Golden Delicious. I'm not 100% sure. It might be a Fuji. I'm not fully sure. Wish I would have marked it when I did it. So if you do grafts, make sure you mark them. I kind of just like Johnny Appleseeded these things all over the place once I learned how to do it. So slightly irresponsible grafting. Yeah, it tastes like Golden Delicious. That's delicious. Anyway, here's an example. So I grafted these higher up just so I could see the grafts. I know a lot of people like to do them really low to the ground. I want to be able to see what the trunk is doing. If I have any suckers or anything growing, I want to be able to see them so I can take care of them. But here's my graft. See that whip and tongue? Little lightning bolt like Harry Potter's forehead. That's my original graft was. So I have crabapple down here, and then up here I have a Gala. No, yes, that's a Gala. Gala, Fuji Gala. So this one's a Gala. Ow. And I've been trying to form this into a reasonable size. I want most of the apples to be between about 3 feet. What is that, 3 feet? Yeah, probably about 3.5 feet to somewhere around 9 feet. And the reason why is I have a tool for grabbing apples, and I want most of my apples to be in that range so they're easy to harvest. And I think I have long arms, so I think I can reach about 8 feet myself. So this one's having a hard time. Not really sure why. This one's doing all right. Again, this is another one that I've grafted myself. It's really thrilling though to build your own trees and to graft them yourself. See if I can see my graft union. There it is. That one sticks out a little bit more. This one actually has 2 different varieties, which is kind of fun. So graft union number 1 and graft union number 2. It's a little variety apple. And then this one has 3 different varieties. So one of the problems though is if you have more vigorous vegetative growth in one type over another type, the tree is going to prefer, it's going to give apical dominance to the more aggressive variety that the tree has access to produce vegetative growth in. In other words, if it's more efficient to make leaves in a Fuji than it is a Gala or vice versa, it's going to pick the one that can make leaves more efficiently. So sometimes you'll have to handicap or damage the one that's more prolific, and you kind of have to pay attention. If you just let them kind of go, if you have 2 varieties in one tree and you don't bridle the tree, so to speak, eventually the tree is going to favor whichever scion is more useful for producing leaves, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. So, for example, on this one, how I have 3 different varieties of apples, I'm going to have to make sure that I'm paying attention and making sure that they all are about the same height above the ground. So my zone of fruiting is going to be between this is obviously going to be above the graft union, but I don't want these to go taller than about 9 feet so that I can still reach the fruit. So I'm going to have to make sure all 3 of these, the tips of the tallest branches of all 3 of these are roughly the same height. If one of them gets taller, the plant's going to sense that, and it's going to put more energy into the taller one because it wants apical dominance. So apical, the tip, the apex, whichever branch gets the tallest is going to be the dominant branch. And so it'll just like build or energize or feed that dominant branch more nutrients than the rest of the branches. And then you'll end up getting growth that you may or may not want. So that's something to consider if you try doing one of these multi-grafts. So those are the apple trees. I've actually done some as well. I don't know if it's illegal, but sometimes when I go hiking, I kind of look for apple trees out in the middle of nowhere. And so I have done a few of these onto just wild crab apple trees. It'd be kind of cool to check on them. We'll see what happens. But I think without a human, what's probably going to end up happening is the tree is going to select for rootstock growth. So basically what's going to happen is the tree periodically puts up suckers because it would rather just keep with its own genetics, and then that sucker will just outgrow the tree. And then when the tree senses the dominance of that, it'll just basically stop feeding the grafted wood and start only feeding the rootstock. So that's some of the dangers of just letting these things go. If you have any suckers coming up, that's why you're supposed to take them off. So for example here, my graft union's here, but right here I have some growth. If I don't take care of that quick, the tree will start dedicating a lot of nutrients to trying to circumvent my my scion. So that's an update that works really well. Go ahead and graft those trees so you can get the fruit that you like. Thanks for joining me in the chaos.